evening, friends. I am Patty Elhoff, the author of Upcycle with Decoupage, and before we continue on with today's project, I would like to say to the people of Paris and of France, the United States stands with you. This is not much, but we will be doing an ornament today. One of our projects will be in honor of you. And in order to get started, we're going to use this paper clay. There are links below that go right to my website. Everything is available on my website. And I just want to remind you with the paper clay, you do want to make sure you seal this tight because it will dry out. And if you don't have a craft sheet, you can use the shiny side of freezer paper to work on because this will stick to other surfaces. And I'm just rolling the dough around. I know that's a little bit fast. I have a lot to fit in this video. And I just rolled it around for a few minutes to make it pliable, really about 1 or 2 minutes. And I want this to be about 1/4 of an inch thick. And you can use a rolling pin if you'd like. And I am taking these cookie cutters, and almost all of these are available on my website. And you may have some at home already that you'd like to use. And I cut out some shapes. And before these dry, what you can do is take something called an eye screw, which looks like this. Now this is the wrong color and the wrong size for this. You can get these in the hardware store. You can also get them in the picture hanging section of the craft store. And while the dough is still damp or wet, paper clay, I'm sorry, you can screw this in and it can dry this way. This is too large. I would suggest going with the smaller size. And the paper clay is so light, you can also use these Christmas hooks, the things that you use on your tree with your ornaments. They can go right into the wet paper clay, and you can dry them this way. Now you can leave these out to air dry, which takes about 2 or 3 days. I am aware that there is a fawn on the video right now, but this is how I work. I get distracted by what's going on outside of me. Look at that adorable face, and who knew that fawns had little whiskers like that? I just got a big kick out of that, and I was hoping you would enjoy it too. I put these in the oven, and the oven was cold. I set it to 170 degrees. When it reached 170, I turned it off and I left these in the oven to cool down with the oven, which did take a couple of hours. So this does take some time to dry. You can air dry it, which also takes at least a day, sometimes 2 days, depending on the humidity. Now, once they're dry, we can start to work on them. You can make the clay thinner so that it dries faster, but your ornaments will be a little bit flimsy, and I wanted them nice and firm. So I cut out a section of the napkin I wanted to use and made sure I just had the top layer. And I'm sorry, this particular decoupage glue, which is made by Viva Decor out of Germany, is made specifically for napkins, but I have not been able to find it in the States. I was able to just place the napkin down and using this flat brush worked out from the center and decoupage the napkin down. Want to make sure you get those edges all done. You should be able to do this with your decoupage glue also. So get the edges down. And once that's dried, and this will dry pretty quickly, what you want to do is just take a nail file and file away all of the edges around the outside of this. Now I'm using pearls and lace to trim this particular set of ornaments. So I dyed this white lace in a very strong cup of tea and I dried it, and here's how I trimmed these particular ornaments. I kept the glue gun on the low temperature, and on these, I have a teacup here, and I have a little kettle. And what I did was I went in specific places and I added the lace. Oh, and the cupcake, I forgot. So I added the lace trim in places where I thought it would look good. And I also added the pearls the same way, using the hot glue gun, but on a low temperature. I found that it worked much better when I cut out smaller sections of the pearls and just hot glued each small section rather than try and do it all at once. This was the benefit of using the glue gun on the low temperature, and I didn't burn myself at all, and it was much prettier when I took each small section and put it around any curve that I had on any of these three ornaments, where I've got the teapot, the teacup, and this cupcake. So I'm just going to finish putting the lace and pearl trim around all three of these ornaments. And now I am taking mother of pearl mica, which is a larger chunk, and glossy accents. All of this will be on the website. And I am placing this sporadically around my ornaments. And the mother of pearl mica is a larger chunk. It looks like broken pieces of glass. And I'm going to place this all over these three ornaments and put this aside to dry and move on to the next project while this is drying. And I'll show you what these all look like in the end of the video. And one thing that I want to add that will save you a lot of trouble, this glossy accents tends to get jammed up a lot between uses. So if you take a baby wipe after you're done, each time, take a baby wipe and wipe off the tip of it and make sure there's nothing in the spout. It'll be ready to go the next time you need it. And again, I am finding more and more of these products from Viva Gold that are just stunning. This one is called Fire Red, and I am taking one of my favorite items to work with, which is just a plain white coffee filter, and I am painting this very Christmassy red all over the surface of this, and I'm going to let it dry. Once it's dry, I'm going to take a pencil and trace around the heart. Then I'm going to cut the heart out. Love this nice Christmassy color, but it's also got a nice sheen to it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to decoupage it on top of the heart. There's a little bit excess left over, but I'm going to just file that away later. So once I get this on here, I'm going to let it dry. Now I put a stencil on here. I would much rather hand paint a snowflake. I know that's not quite that easy, but I put a stencil over this along with a glue stick, and what I did was just added some glue around this inside of the stencil, and then I put some very bright glitter over this. Put a link below to an excellent hand painted stencil snowflake video, and I put this aside to dry. And these are Viva metallic paints, Viva Gold metallic paints. These are just so beautiful. I'm just painting a color. This is about 4 different colors, and on one of them in particular I will show you some extra embellishments. So once this dried, I took some jewelry findings, and again I am using this Ranger glossy accent. This works as an excellent an excellent glue as well. And I'm adding some bling down here on the bottom, and I got this in the scrapbook section of the craft store. And I'll just put this aside to let the glossy accent dry. Now I'm going back to one of the other hearts, and I am painting this with another one of the colors. I'm adding a little bit of pink to this white to make the background match the glass pearls that I am going to adhere to the front of this now dried heart. And again, I am using the glossy accents, and it works as a very nice strong glue for these glass pearls. And I move that glossy accents around with my fingers, and I'm just adding the glass pearls over the top, and I'm trying to turn them which is very easy to do. You've got a little open drying time here so that the holes, the openings don't show. And I'm going to put that aside to dry. And now I'm going on to our Paris themed ornament, and I'm just taking a pretty napkin with the word Paris and some pink flowers on it. And again, I'm going to use that same technique where I apply the decoupage glue over the napkin. And I just take this brush and I work gently from the inside out, applying the decoupage glue. And while this decoupage glue is wet, I am going to take some glitter and just put a smattering of it over the surface of this so that it looks a little bit more festive or Christmassy. And while this is wet, you can pull the edges away, but once it's dry, you'll still need to use a nail file just to go around those edges and file that excess napkin away. And I went back to the red decoupaged heart, filed away the edges, and I also added some glitter around the outside of this. And here is how our completed projects look. I'll show you in a moment what I did in order to hang these. And this is the one with the glass pearls. And these are the ones where I used the mica that looks like glass, the mother of pearl, along with the lace and the pearl trim. This is the blue key where I used the jewelry findings. There's that metallic paint. And I wanted to turn the light off so that you could see how this looks in certain light. There was a very bright light over us, but even in a not so bright light, these have a really beautiful, brilliant shine to them. If you put these on the tree, especially if your tree has a lot of lights or glimmering lights, you're going to see a whole lot of movement on your tree, or even if you just hang these near lights. And here is the one that I did in honor of Paris. Also, it's kind of on the plain side, but very elegant, I think. Happy that turned out so well. And here are the metallic keys, the metallic paint just on those keys. And I wanted to also show you, here's on the back, I tried to stick with the theme, and I simply hot glued the pearls onto these ornaments that already had the pearls on them. And then I glued pink pearls to the back of the glass pearl ornament, hot glue again, which works just fine. The paper clay is very light. The glass beads are a little bit heavier, but this will still work just fine to hold them up. And I put a very sheer ribbon on the back of the Paris one, and I just used a little bit of fabric glue on the back, and that's going to hold that just fine. And I have not yet added anything to the back of this blue ornament because I might actually make it into a pin. It's that pretty. So that is our video for this week. Again, friends, thank you so much for your subscriptions. Feel free to ask me any questions that you'd like. Upcycle with Decoupage is also on Facebook. If you go on over and like and follow the page, you'll be notified every week when I put a new video out. Thanks again, my friends. I'll see you next week with another video. Bye-bye.